Hello, everybody. It's Annie Brock and Sheneke Harris here to say happy May 24th. It's been one of those days for me. Shanika's just had a chill morning. So, we are here today for the Leader Transition Institute monthly training and coaching session. And we are very happy to see you. May happens to one of the many months. There must be a dozen or more things that we celebrate during May. One of the things that we talk about in May in particular is mental health. And it's something that we all deal with on a regular basis. But let me tell you, when you're in the middle of a transition, whether that's a military transition or any kind of a transition, mental health is an issue. And so Shanika and I were talking and decided that we should just talk about it here. And so that's what we're going to do today. And we are glad to have you. And if you are listening to the recording, thank you for doing that with us. So, Shanika, my friend.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's just dive right in. You know me, I go off the high board. Let's do it.
I am ready. Good morning, everyone. Good morning again, Annie. Thank you so much for having me on the platform this month to talk about an extremely important topic, which is mental health awareness. Now, I'm going to come from a different perspective when it comes to mental health awareness. We're going to talk about it, but I want to share me and my family's journey when it came to transitioning at different periods of our lives, right? And I feel like that's important because I noticed that's when we really had to take ownership of our mental health and what we were or were not doing when we were going through these different phases of life. So, for those of you that may not be aware, Mental Health Awareness Month is basically the month where we collectively encourage breaking the stigma about mental health illness and just seeking mental health as a whole. And it's very important because our mental health is what keeps us going. And in some cases, if we don't take care of our mental health, just like we take care of our physical health, our spiritual health, and our emotional health, we could find ourselves in a space where we don't know what to do. So, with that being said, I want to just briefly give the story about my family and our transition from different installations throughout our Air Force careers and to our transition now, where I am retired Air Force, and my husband is also a retired Air Force as well. So my husband and I were both active duty, and we met. We were E5s, and as we retired, we both retired as the rank of E8. So you can imagine the life transitions that were happening when we're young in our fight for our career, and we didn't have any children, right? So it's me and him on the go, boom, 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 boom. And then we decided we wanted to start a family, and we did. And my daughter is 13, and we also have an 8-year old. And through that transition of us no longer being single, living our best lives, now we have children. And not that children are a burden, but your priorities change throughout your career as you have a family. And we realized that we had some things to do because he was a superior performer. I was a superior performer in my own right, but we had to navigate deployments. We had to navigate temporary duty assignments, and deployments is when you leave your family and you go for, at the time, 3 months, and then it changed to 6 months, and then some people, they leave for a year. We did remote assignments. We were single at the time, but yet that had its own challenges. And then also just PCSing, moving from one duty location to the next. And on average, we moved about every 2 years, right? So that was interesting because not only are we thinking about ourselves, now we're thinking about where are we going to live? What schools are our kids going to go to? What does this assignment look like for him? What does it look like for me? Because as we went up in rank, our responsibilities changed. So not only were we responsible for ourselves, our professional development, and our children, We're now responsible for more programs, we're responsible for more people within the organization, and in some cases, we are responsible for our organization. So, yeah, I'm getting tired just thinking about it. And I'm super excited because as you can see, with me sitting here, we survived it. And it was a journey. And then the other thing that you have to think about is, how does it affect the children? How does it affect me? How do these changes affect him? And how can we collectively make sure everyone is good to go? And I'll be honest, we weren't always thinking that way. We were thinking, how can we progress in our careers? What's the best move for our family? And then one day we both made the decision it was time to hang up the boots and see what was next for Team Harris. So, what I want to talk about right now is just the different transitions, and I'll hit on that briefly because, when we PCS or we're going to temporary duty or a deployment, in some cases we may feel like we're starting over. Like I said, we're in new work centers. If you're a military spouse and if your spouse is moving and having these different jobs, where do you fit in? Am I going to have to start over? Can I start my own business? Will my information or certifications transfer from state to state or from state to overseas? What does that look like? The reintegration, when you're on a deployment and you've been living your life, you and the kids have pressed forward, and your spouse, their life was at a standstill for 6 months to maybe a year. Now they're coming back and everyone's learning how to get along, how to reintegrate your spouse back into your life because you've just been go, 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 go. And then in some cases, it's the rebuilding, not necessarily starting over, maybe not the reintegration, but maybe that time of part, you've noticed that there are some things that maybe you need to rebuild when it comes to communication, when it comes to just those different human relation things as well. So the next transition is, like I said, a new job or a career, new duties, new teams, new expectations. And it's funny because Annie and I were just talking about expectations and how maybe we should adjust those in all areas of our lives. And then, of course, the new responsibilities. And then it's the separations and retirement. If the military is all that you and your family have known, now we're going into a different area of our lives. And it's important that we plan, right? And we're planning depending on if you're separating or if you're retiring. Are we going to stay where we are? Are we going to relocate? Are we going to go to a new area? Are we going to go back to the familiar? Going back to live with your families? Job transitions. Do I want to do what I did when I was in the military? Do I want to open this bakery? Do I want to be a life coach? Do I want to go and teach? Right? And then some of the other things that come with separation and retirement is medical changes. Now, depending on how you're getting out, or maybe some of the things that you didn't pay attention to when you were on active duty, now your medical is a focus, right? Which also comes along the line with your physical medical needs, your emotional medical needs, and most importantly, your mental health needs. Also, when it comes to that planning, finances, oh my goodness, that is a big one. And you can plan, but you can never plan for the unexpected. And in a way, you can, right? Because you're like, okay, I have this set aside, but we never know what that change may be financially. Maybe, two of us are living on two incomes and there's a side hustle somewhere. And now that things are slowing down, maybe we can afford to live on one income. Maybe someone has chosen that they want to go to school full time and use their education benefits. So when it comes to the retiring and separating, we also have to adjust to slowing down. And that's going to be an interesting one because we're so the go. We are moving, we're going 100 miles a minute. And what do when you retire or separate and your phone doesn't ring anymore? Or you don't get all of the text messages that you used to get? Or your inbox is just sales promotions?
Yeah. I
Or
think, Shanika, I think you've convinced everybody that they have to stay on active duty.
and that's not
I think that you have convinced everybody that there is so much that you can't retire. And
that's not my goal.
I know, but I just when you list it out like that, and it's very important that you list it out like that, it's really overwhelming.
Can be. It can
You
be.
know, when I think about it, and I think about it on a regular basis because of the people that we work with,
Yes.
it, if people feel overwhelmed,
Yes.
I think they should. I
Yes.
think if they're on, I think the average person, if they're not feeling overwhelmed, I think that's, you know, I worry about them because yes, I think you can plan and have everything go smoothly, but I can't help but think that there should be some level of overwhelm in dealing with all of these things piled up.
Yes. However, there is hope with all of these things that are going on. And in some cases we have to adjust to being still. And I'll give you an example. I retired 1 April of this year, and I just remember, having to go to a meeting, having to do a teleconference, take the kids here, stop here to pick up dinner, go to the grocery store, all of those things that are life events. And when I started my term leave, and the focus only was taking the kids to school and taking care of my home, some days I felt uncomfortable because I wasn't used to being still. But I have a support system, including Annie, who will encourage you to enjoy those moments. And I would just say that it does take some adjusting and some readjusting. And even for your family members, if you're not the one who's separating or retiring, your family, it takes some adjusting for them as well when you are being still and when things are slowing down. Because military families, from my perspective, we move at a completely different pace than most. So, yes, that is something that we need to just be mindful of. I know it sounds overwhelming, but this is also going to be considered your new normal. And what I mean by that is your new normal is going to be you and your family going through this transition. And it's not a bad thing, it's very positive because you get to learn each other, because everyone has been living their own lives. But now there's a period where you can slow down. You can spend that time together. You can come up with family goals. You can involve your children more when it comes to things that are happening around the home. You and your spouse may have more time for date night. I know we do, and I enjoy it. I'm the extrovert. My husband is the introvert. He'll rock and roll with me. But it's just nice to be able to put that focus back on us, where I'll be honest, in some cases, the focus wasn't always what can we do collectively. It was four people living their separate lives, and we made it work. But in some cases, it wasn't always healthy.
And I can I've been there, lived that, and it ties along with what you said earlier about what coming back from deployments, and Trish had mentioned it in her comment that she said she liked the concept of rebuilding versus reintegration when you were talking about coming back from deployments. But I think that's what families do in transition too. They rebuild.
Yes, yes. And if I could, I would like to give an example of that. So, of course, what I didn't mention here is that for those of us that have transitioned within the last 2, almost 3 years, we were transitioning through a global pandemic. And I will tell you, and my family and I, we talk about this often. We were four people living four different lives. With my job, I was TDY a lot. My husband, he was putting in different work hours. He had different positions. And our kids, they were going to school and we were doing great. We were making it. And then COVID happened and my kids did not go back to school after spring break. And there were four of us under one roof and we had to rebuild. We did. I learned my kids over again, their likes and their dislikes, because in my eyes, they were still babies, you know, but they were young ladies. There were things that my husband and I had to rebuild and work on being under one roof because we didn't have that time because he was TY, I was TDY. He was traveling, I was traveling. And it made a difference being able to rebuild because it was so important that we relearn each other. And when it comes to that transition, I also want to say you're going to end up, in most cases, from my experience, learning who this new spouse is who isn't in a uniform. My husband, straight laced. Now his hair has grown out. He has a beard. He has a little bit of weight on, healthy. And I had to get to know him all over again. His attitude changed. I was like, who is this man? I don't know who he is, but he can stay a while. And he laughs and he's like, hey, this is me. He doesn't have those stressors. He has that freedom. And he took a year and a half off and he went to school. And he was a completely different person. He was at home. He was our primary caregiver. The kids enjoyed it. They would get off the bus. There was a parent there, just those different things. And then even me, now with my transition, my husband, is learning some different things about me. I'm learning things about me that I didn't know I liked because some of those things I had to suppress, right? Being in the military. But now, I got the blue hair. I got the fun going on in the back. It's purple and I'm exploring things, what I like, what I don't like. There are some things that I used to like because it was an expectation that I should like that. There were things that I used to do because it was expected of me. But now there's this freedom. And that's another thing that we have to get used to because this may not be the same person or people that you knew 10 years ago. So you have to live in the now and in the present. So,
And that's critical. We we have expectations based on how things have been, that things are will continue that way, and but that's not reality, not reality at all.
it's
And
not.
so that's an important point. So Tommy asked about medical care. She says that's the biggest eye opener for her. And so yeah, you get to and you need to take care of
Yes.
yourself, physically wise, medically, when you
Yes.
transition.
So I will say from personal experience, um, sometimes we were trained to press through or we would take care of it, but we wouldn't really take care of it. Like we put a band-aid on it, right? Instead of letting them go in and put in the actual cast, actually fix what was wrong. And when you are on the transitioning side of that and you go to your different medical appointments and they start reading this list off of the different ailments that you have and sometimes it's disheartening because you're sitting there like, man, how did I not pay attention to this or how did I not take care of myself? And you think about it, you were just doing what you were trained to do in some cases, and in some cases, you didn't have time. Let's be honest. Oh, yeah, I want to go make an appointment. I want to make sure. And then there's a random meeting that pops up that you have to be there, right? So what do? You make a choice and okay, let me go ahead and reschedule this. And next thing you know, it's 6 months down the road and you're finally going to an appointment. So with that, it is an eye opener, but it's never too late to take care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. We're allowed to do that. And don't feel guilty about it. Now that you have this time, if you use 2 or 3 days to go sit at the VA hospital because you have the time, do that. Get a good book, get a magazine, Fill up your car, take you some snacks, and take care of yourself, because this is a new chapter and it's going to require new things from you.
And the important thing is that nobody is defined by that list.
Yes.
And if you start taking care of those things now, then you have all the rest of your years in, with that those situations managed, and you can live healthy and do the things you want to do. Whereas if you ignore them, you might pay the price down the line.
Yes, and it's so important. Don't ignore it. We are so over that right now. Life is short. You have to take care of yourself. Fit it into your schedule. Make it a priority, just like you do when you are scheduling a meeting, when you're planning a trip, when you're making appointments for your kids. You're going to be out anyway. Might as well go ahead and make an appointment for you. And know that it's okay to take care of yourself. It's okay. We've been taking care of others for a very long time. And it's okay to say, you know what? I have to put me back on the priority list.
And it's okay to tell our children and our husbands or our spouses that we don't have to be 100% there for them. It's time. We have to take that time to take care of ourselves, because we can't be good for them now or in the future if we don't.
Yes. And with that, and Annie, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's in one of my points when I talk about community. Hey, it's okay to get your family involved. Hey kids, I'm not doing the best when it comes to drinking my water. Do a family water challenge. I can tell you right now, my 8-year-old mommy, you drinking too much soda, I'm bringing you some water. It's like, let's collectively take care of each other, because we are our community. And this is, it's not limited to the people in your four walls. It's whoever you consider to be your support system and your family. And they'll hop on board. And next thing you know, it catches on, like laughter or yawning is bound to happen.
And which leads me, because you sent me 5 points that you wanted to cover, and one of them, the first one, was to embrace your emotions, and that laughter and crying, it's right there. I can remember. Oh my gosh, Shanika, I don't know that anybody outside our family has ever heard this, but the day that we were ready to actually leave Bowling Air Force Base, the cars were packed, trailers were attached to both cars. We were ready to walk out the door, and my husband was laying on the floor of our house, laughing hysterically. I thought I was going to have to call the paramedics, because he was just, that was like his emotional release. And so some of us are going to be crying, and then some of us are going to be laughing.
Yeah. And not only with embracing those emotions, acknowledge them. It's okay. It's okay to feel anger. It's okay to feel sadness. It's okay to feel joy. It's okay to feel those things, but acknowledge them. You're a human being. There's no more suppressing how you feel, because there are so many different ways and methods to work through those emotions. Find a safe space. That's my second point. And I will always be an advocate for a safe space. Why? Because you need a place where you can go to just be, to cry, to laugh, to scream, to just sit there and say nothing in some cases. But it's okay, because you are going through a lot. We've been through a lot. We're going through a lot. And guess what, y'all? Life is not letting up at all. And I always say this, the only thing constant in life is change. It is. So it's not change is bad. It's how can we embrace this change? What can we find out about ourselves? What can we see within our family members and friends? And finding that safe space is important. And you can find, and we've done it, safe spaces can be virtual, they can be in person, and they're very much needed. The third point is seek help. I always say it's okay to seek professional help, especially over the last 2 to 3 years. We have realized that we can't do it all by ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with seeking help. Um, I always like to say your friend is not your therapist. Your spouse is not your therapist. They're maybe good listeners, but use the people who are certified and qualified to help you work through these things. It doesn't make you a weak person. It's just very important to have a neutral party who's going to be able to give you the tools you need to go through these different things.
Yeah.
Next, give yourself grace. I will always encourage this because sometimes we are so hard on ourselves. And it's just important to know we're human beings. We're not always going to get it right. And like you and I were talking about earlier, um, things are going to change. So whatever expectations that we have, and in some cases, we probably just need to drop it. Drop those expectations and take those things as they come and use your community to help you work through that. And for those who may be thinking, oh, I don't have a community, we all have some type of community. And sometimes if it's not there, go find it. Or if it's not there, create it. Create the community that you need. Communication is important. Let people help you. Don't make the decision for them. I know I've done that, right? When it comes to transitioning or maybe a mental health incident or something, I I want to be in control. And it's important to let other people help you. Let them make the decision whether or not they can be a part of your needs or if they can be a part of your support system. And I know sometimes we expect family members to be the ones, but maybe they can't take that on. Maybe there's something they have to work through before they can provide you assistance. So just look for the help that you need. And those are the 5 tips that I had today. And when I say make mental health a community matter, involve everyone, the people that you see every day. Of course, make sure there are people that you can trust. Your kids are resilient. Let's not forget about the kids. We're talking about this earlier. We can't forget about children. Yes, some of them have carefree lives and carefree attitudes, but they're still little human beings. And some of them have these minds that don't turn off. They're always on the go. Some kids internalize a lot of things. And just because your child hasn't said anything, it doesn't mean that they aren't following your transitions. And in most cases, they're having their own transitions as well. Because guess what? Maybe they're switching schools. Maybe there's some things going on at school that you're not aware of. My youngest one, she is so sweet. She doesn't want to bother anyone. But I have to remind her teachers are there to help. It's okay. So don't stress out. Go ask for the help that you need. So that's what I have for you all today in regard to just transitioning, mental health awareness, and just making sure that we take care of ourselves and our family members and showing you ways to make sure that they're involved as well. Any
And
questions?
I think I think that's everything is so timely, that all of these comments, that you've made, Shanika, everything that you've shared with us. And it reminds me also, I saw about a book this morning, and for the life of me, I can't think of the name. The first name of the author, her last name is McGonigal. And the premise of the book is about joyful movement, about how movement is important to our mental health. And she created like an 8-minute exercise program, doing joyful movements, doing like the kinds of movements like when we throw our hands up when we're excited, when we're throwing confetti and we're swaying side to side to music, and those kinds of things that research has shown when we make those joyful movements with our body, that it actually creates the joy inside of us that we need,
Nice.
which I think helps or
Yeah.
can help in this process.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, man.
So, and I think, and Trish said something very important in the comments that she said about liking how model that we should model for our kids how it's okay to ask for help.
Yes. And so what I do with my daughters, I let them know it's okay to not be okay. And I also let them know you have every right to feel the way that you feel. You do. And then my next question, after they've processed some things, how are we going to work through this so that it works for you and that you feel good? I do. I let them know because, sometimes, and I was guilty of it, uh, we think kids aren't allowed to have emotions. And you know what I tell my daughter? Okay, ma'am, you can go upstairs, do what you need to do. And when you're ready to talk about it, come back down and we'll have a conversation. But yeah, I allow them to be, they have to learn how to regulate them. So yeah, I agree.
And that's something that I think that people who have served in the military and military spouses haven't um, haven't learned to do as much for ourselves is our self-regulation.
Yes.
We have stuffed things into boxes.
Hmm.
We have suppressed things. We haven't learned to regulate.
Yes.
So how do we do that? Ideas?
I go back to my point of you have to acknowledge, because when we try to throw it away or push it back, there's going to be a trigger moment at some point in time. And what you don't want is for it to be at the most inopportune time. And that's where I would start. Just acknowledging the fact that you have them. Because some of us have gone so long where we're like Wednesday Adams from the Adams family. We have nothing. And when you're at home by yourself or you're in this transition and things are changing, how do you deal with that? So I think that's what I was saying is acknowledging them. And then that as you do that and get the help that you need, or maybe the help you didn't know that you need, then you can embrace those as they come. And you don't look at them as negatives, but you look at them as, I'm a human being, I am processing this, and I will get through this too.
Awesome. So you gave me a website that I'm going to put up in the banner. There is, and can you tell us a little bit about this website about NAMI?
Yes. So NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and they have a lot of different resources where you can go out. If you need help, they have a contact number, or you can text, or you can find some local mental health assistance in your area. They also have a mental health awareness section where you can go out and see some of their initiatives and some of their social media. Uh, Campaigns that they're doing, but also you can go on and read just personal stories. I know me, I like the personal aspect of a lot of different things because it allows you to know that you're not alone. So I have enjoyed, utilizing this website over the years. So yes, ma'am, that's what NAMI is about.
Thank you. Thanks, Shanika, because I think, you said some magic words there about knowing that you're not alone.
Yes. Hmm.
We
Yes.
sometimes, when we are at our lowest,
Hmm.
we are we are concerned that we are alone.
Yeah, and we're not. It's funny because and I won't be too much longer, but sometimes if we just have a conversation with someone, we will see we have a lot more things in common than we don't. That's been my experience. And you have to be able to work through the fact of being judged. Sometimes people just need to hear your story. They're not going to judge you. They just need to know you survived it and I can too. So
And I think one of the things you said at the beginning is so important, is that about that others have survived it. I think millions of people have made this transition already ahead of us, and and very few of them did it without a struggle.
Yeah.
And so that those people, those of us, I will include myself in that because it hasn't always been smooth for me. Those of us who struggle, we are not the abnormal ones.
And if I could, I would highly encourage, if you are watching, LTI's course, Changing Focus from We to Me. Y'all, I thought I had my transition plan all together. And I sat through that course and walked away from that weekend with a different perspective on transitioning, and it's okay to not have it all together. You can readjust your plan. So thank you, LTI, for having that course. It has been life changing. And Tommy, thank you also for referring me to LTI. But yes, yes.
Well, Shanika, I was going to end talking about changing focus. And so I'm going to say thank you so much for that unsolicited advertisement for our program. I really appreciate it because
Yes.
we are getting ready to shut down for the summer. We have one more cohort before we are closed for July and August. So we have a cohort in June. I should have these dates memorized, but I don't. That is the 12th through the 15th of June, and registration closes on Thursday evening at 9 o'clock. So you can go to the website that is on the screen, and we'll put it in the chat later for you. And there's a video there about a little bit about what we do. The agenda is there, and it is free. You're going to pay a $35 deposit that we will refund to you when you have completed the course. But the course is free, and we are here to serve. So we look forward to doing that for you. So thank you so much. Let me pull that down because I hate to end with a banner going like that. Thank you, Sheneke, so much for sharing your story with us and your time, and the 5 points to: number one, embrace your emotions; number two, find a safe space; seek help; give yourself grace; and to make mental healthness. Sometimes it feels like that, doesn't it? Make mental wellness a community matter. So thank you everybody for spending time with us today. And if you're listening to the recorder, thank you for taking the time to do that too. And we'll see you again next month. Thank you so much, Sheneke.
Thank you.